Hey, everybody.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome to the Back to the Oddcast podcast.
Off the record.
I'm Blackie.
I'm Erica.
Thanks for joining us again. We were off last week for the 4th of July. We kind of wanted to enjoy the long weekend, America's 249th birthday. So thanks for coming back and being with us. Today's show, we're going to talk a little bit more. I know our first show we did on weather modification and some other conspiracy theories that were going around. With the, what was that, Hurricane Helene in North Carolina, Tennessee, and Georgia, and all the areas that were hit pretty hard. And as you've been noticing from the news or wherever you get your news, that Texas and many other states, Oklahoma, I think Chicago, Illinois, I'll bring up a map and show you here eventually of all the states that have been hitting really hard with flooding, flash flooding, once in 1,000 years flash flooding, which, if that makes sense, because none of us have been alive for 1,000 years, but that's what they're saying it is. There's just a lot of different things that we're going to look at, but our big thing today is we wanted you to be a part of the show. If you have heard things, seen things, if you've been a part of this type of weather, we'll throw a link in. If we know you, we'll bring you on. If we don't know you, it's going to be a risk, obviously. But we just feel that we need to talk about this. And before we even get started, I would like to say that our hearts go out to all the families that have lost loved ones in the flooding, whether it was Texas, Oklahoma, all the places. And it, even back in Carolinas. It's horrible what's going on with the weather lately, and we kind of just wanted to talk about it and see what you guys thought about it. So, if you're wanting to talk about it, hop in the chat. We'll throw a link in there and you can hop on in, or just talk through us in the chat. When we talked about this the first time, we talked about the government and them working on modifying the weather. A lot of people, I've seen a lot lately that meteorologists claim it's all bunk, that, there's cloud seeding, but we've been cloud seeding for years. And I know that. Everybody knows that. Since 1940s, we've been cloud seeding to increase, rainfall or whatever. And that's where I'm kind of getting thrown off about all of this is, if you look at Operation Popeye, which took place in Vietnam in the 60s, what I found out is what they wanted to do with Operation Popeye was to keep the monsoon season going by 35 to 45 days. They wanted to continue that rain and all. And none of us have been a part of a monsoon. I don't think any of us have been a part of a monsoon. We've seen some rain lately here in the States that probably would equal a monsoon. But, to increase a monsoon by 35 to 45 days by injecting chemicals into the air, that seems a little outrageous. And it is what it is as far as the U.S. military is concerned. But could they be doing the same thing here in the United States with our weather? Well, I'm not a meteorologist. I'm no professional at this. I'm just going by what I see and what I read. So please take it at that. I'm not trying to throw out any disinformation. And again, as I always say in every show, or as we always say in every show, research for yourself. And I'll give you some websites to look at that you could research this stuff, and you'll be shocked. I know I was shocked today when I went to geoengineeringwatch.org and pulled up a list of patents from 1891 to 2023. And it's literally, I can't tell you how many pages, 20 pages of U.S. patents that were created to modify weather in one form or another. And whether it was to make it rain more, rain less, to make hurricanes stronger, to make hurricanes weaker, to change directions, it's all in these trademarks, these patents that I highly suggest you go on geoengineeringwatch.org, and there's a section at the top that says patents, and you'll be surprised. It'll amaze you that they can come out now and say, well, we're not doing anything with the weather. Because in my eyes, this says it all, that if you've got this many patents since 1891, that you're definitely trying to do something with the weather, whether it be good or bad. We talked about in the first show about Operation Popeye and what it was used for. And it was, they used it to soften the roads, to make the hillsides muddier so that they couldn't build the tunnel systems they were building, the Viet Cong. And it was working. It worked great, apparently. I know a lot of us have seen Forrest Gump, and he was talking about and how it was raining, and it was raining from the left to the right, right to the left. Sometimes it would rain from up to down, and all, or down to up. And so, it rained a lot. And it's gotten to, and there were other military operations as well. Project Cirrus was a military project to control hurricanes. Now, they tell you in the research that it was to control hurricanes to get them away from land. But in further research I've done, it's also they wanted to make hurricanes stronger and use them as a possible weapon. Our government's always looking for ways to fix war or make war better, or help us out in any way they can. So take it or leave it. But that was another one, Project Cirrus. When I got to reading about that, I was just really shocked that why would we? I understand trying to make hurricanes weaker, but couldn't it also make hurricanes stronger? And that's what we have to worry about. Because there are signs when they were working on Project Cirrus that they accidentally steered the hurricane into Savannah, Georgia. Now, they won't admit it, but apparently that's what happened. And again, I highly suggest searching that. Geoengineering. That one's actually, you probably could find that on geoengineeringwatch.org, but I found it in the internet when I was looking at Operation Popeye. Cloud seeding is also called blue skying. Now, the reason it's called that is you seed the clouds to make them rain. There's also types of stuff they can do to eliminate the clouds, which if you're in an area where it rains a lot, they can eliminate, the rain clouds, and you don't have to worry about flooding. But apparently, and they use chemicals like silver iodide, potassium iodide, and calcium chloride. And this will get into something I want to talk about a little bit later that I think needs to be discussed as well. But anyway, so again, if you guys have anything that you've heard, please feel free to throw it in the chat and we'll talk about it. Another thing I would like to say is if anybody's been keeping their eye on laws, I know Marjorie Taylor Greene of Georgia, and I'm just going to say this is not a political thing. This should involve everybody. This isn't red state, blue state. This is every state this is happening in. And they can keep telling us that this is natural, this is climate change. And I will say this, I believe in climate change because spring, summer, winter, fall, those are climates and they change. They've been doing this. Oh my gosh, this year is the hottest year I can remember. But then you go back and look at 1996 and somebody will say, this is the hottest year on record. It's weather. Weather changes. There's no, but what we're checking into, what we're looking at is how is it becoming so specific to areas? I know that they said the area in Texas that had this recent flash flood is prone to flash flooding. In my eyes, if something's prone to flash flooding and you've had some major floods over the years there, well, why isn't the local government trying to take care of that? I know when we were in New Orleans recently, we went on a tour and we got to see all the places that, what were those called? Levees that they built to protect from the flooding again. And we all know that New Orleans is basically the bottom of a bowl. They sit under sea level. So when the water collects, it just collects like a bowl. And that's what happened at Hurricane Katrina. A lot of places like, let's say where we live in the plateau, we live on top, we're 1,700 square feet or 1,700 feet above sea level. So for us, if it's a heavy rain where we're at, we really don't have to worry about it as much as the people at the bottom of the plateau, the flash flooding and everything. So obviously that's a good thing for us. We just get a little occasional river flowing down our front yard if it rains too much. But we don't think we're going to have to worry about any geoengineering over our part of Tennessee. And then you ask yourself, why are these certain areas getting hit with the amount of rainfall that they are? What was it? Chicago just got hit with more rain than they get hit with in a year, I believe. It was something similar to that. And when they come up with 1 in 1,000 year rainstorm, 4 of them in 1 week, that should make us all wonder, how, why? And don't give me that, it's the green agenda that's why they're doing it. Somebody is creating this to create the green agenda. That's in my opinion. I think we just cycle through different times, and I believe that they're using the weather modification to make it look more like it's man-made. That us putting carbon dioxide into the atmosphere is the big problem, when that's what we breathe out. It's what mankind's always breathed out. Cows emitting methane gas. We've had more cows back in the old days, cows and buffalo, and nothing happened to the planet back then. So, there's lots of factors. Again, I'm not a professional at this. I just wanted to talk about it with everybody and see what your thoughts were. Let's look at what we got here. I know that the cloud seeding Rainmaker, which was the organization that seeded the clouds in Texas this last time, seeded them for, I believe, 2 days prior to when the flood started. Now, one of the things I have to say about that is there was a lot of Gulf, what do they call that? Gulf pressure. Apparently there was a storm out in the Gulf that was really building. It never turned into a hurricane. It was just like a tropical storm. And that pressure was still in the skies. And for some reason, again, I'm not a professional, they felt like they needed to seed it. Do all areas flooding or just part of them? That's a good question, Gary. I don't know. That's a good question. And again, that's something we need to think about.
What's the question?
Oh, do all the flooding?
The question was, do all the areas flooding or just part of them hold major military installations?
It's a good question. It's something we need. It's something that if you're interested in, if you want to know what's going on around you, then it takes 5 minutes to get on the internet and find that out. Type in exactly what you want to know. You're going to be sent to different places. You're going to be, what do they call that when in the Congress? They're going to be, I forget what it is, but they're going to just talk around. You're going to find all these sites that are, and then eventually you'll find it if you keep looking. Mm-hmm. The weather here definitely been strange the last few years. Our manure pits fill up from rainwater faster than we used to, and we have the same amount of animals we've always had. So yeah, there's something to think about, Jeff. Maybe this is something to affect farming as well.
Right.
I truly believe, and it's something I'd like to hit here in a little bit, that this is being done for reasons. People make fun of conspiracy theorists, but I think we're the smart people because we're the ones asking all the questions that we can't seem to get answers for. So we research on our own, right, and don't rely on other people, to just tell us what's going on. We're going to search it for ourselves. Mm-hmm. And Jeff, I wondered that with the cloud seeding. One of the things I tried to research today was the chemicals used in cloud seeding: sulfur dioxide, silver. I named them a little bit. Silver dioxide. Are we finding what effects do they have on the human body? What effects do they have on animals? And what effects do they have on, let's say, vegetation? Can't find a whole lot about it. I did find some stuff that said that over a long periods of time, it can have effects on vegetation and humans and animals. And one of the things that we've been discussing a lot lately are the lack of bees and lightning bugs. And I've been seeing a lot of articles now on the disappearance of lightning bugs. And if anybody doesn't know this, the first 2 years of a lightning bug's life are spent underground. And then they come out after 2 years, and they come out and they do their thing. And then they start all just kind of like, what was the cicadas? Yeah. So, we live out here in the middle of nowhere. and we've started seeing a few lightning bugs, but nothing like what we saw when I was a kid, when you would be outside and you could just, maybe it was our fault. Maybe our generation wiped them all out with tennis rackets and ping pong paddles.
Oh.
I don't know, or making necklaces out of them or rings.
Wendell said this earlier.
Now, Wendell, I'll agree on the mosquitoes.
Wendell said, Chad, I can tell you that we still have a lot of bugs. I wish the mosquitoes, ants, and roaches and cicadas would all go away.
Well, Wendell, I'll put that back, please.
Yeah.
Wendell, I'll agree with that. Some bugs, yeah. If you're looking at, I don't think bugs are ever all going to die off. I think what's going on is with bees, if you're killing the flowers, if you're killing plants, if these chemicals are affecting these things, then you're affecting the bees. I know I've talked to quite a few people that have talked about how they had 4, 5, 6 beehives. I don't know what they call the boxes, the wooden boxes that the bees are in, but year to year, it's really starting to change, and they're losing them. They're losing the population of bees. Now we have a yard full of dandelions and clover, and she grows a lot of flowering plants because we're trying to help. Pollinators. That's a great, we eat our yard. I know that sounds funny, but we like our dandelions and clover, and we're trying to help, but we're finding, I can walk through the yard and not find a bee on any of these things. Whereas a kid, half the time I would step on them. I was always barefoot and stepping on these things. So, something's going on. Wendell will never get rid of mosquitoes or cockroaches. They seem to be resilient.
Right.
Cockroaches, they say, will be the last surviving creature on the planet. If we were to nuke this place, cockroaches would somehow survive because they can adapt to their environment.
Cockroaches and Twinkies.
And they would be eating Twinkies because Twinkies last forever as well.
Oh, gross.
But anyway.
And then wasps too. We haven't seen near as many recently as
wasps, carpenter bees, and a lot of people in different areas, say, well, I've seen bees all over the place. Well, again, we live, you can see behind us is all woods in front of us, and our, like I said, all the flowering things that we grow, and we just don't see the bees that we used to see. And other people have talked to me about the same thing in our town too, that these things are all missing. And a lot of people have asked me what I think's happening with the lightning bugs. But again, if you're interested, research it. Mm-hmm. I really think we need to know what's going on around us. We can't we're not ostriches. We don't live with our heads in the sand. We need to be awake and aware of what's going on around us. Gary said, we had so much rain here, my well water has turned brown. Oh boy, I'm sorry about that. And yeah, we had so much rain for a while, like probably a week, that every time we use our sinks, the water would gurgle. And I never owned a well or a septic system until now. And my neighbor's like, it's because your septic system's full of water. So, and now it doesn't do it because it's all drained out and done its thing. But the rain's just been crazy. In Ohio, we saw so many lightning bugs and ladingbugs. So maybe it's just an area thing, Bobby. Mm-hmm. I still think in my heart that something's going on that's eliminating a lot of the bugs, not the good ones we want to get rid of, like mosquitoes, but something's going on. I believe they're finding new chemicals in the ground, which I believe possibly could be coming from chemicals that are seeding, or if you believe in what I believe in, that they're the chemicals that are falling from the chemtrails, because I truly believe that that's part of all of this. And if you really want to go deep down the rabbit hole, let's remember that there was a lot of talk out there with the Georgia Guidestones and the Illuminati stuff that they wanted to have a certain population of people, and hence, certain diseases were created. We won't name them, but I think you all know what they are, that were wiping out populations of people. And I think that this is part of it. I know there's a lot of lakes by where we used to live up in Ohio. There were quite a few lakes, actually 2 that I know of. And I say that's quite a few because not a whole lot of lakes where we lived in Ohio. But they had that algae bloom on them that you weren't allowed to swim or fish in them. And they suggested you don't even boat in them. And they were saying that it was runoff from farm fields, the chemicals from the farm fields. And that's probably true because it was all farm area. But what if it's something else as well? And that's the stuff I like to know.
Yeah, but then that makes you question what were they growing at the farms?
Well, what
If
chemicals?
they were using chemicals, were they going to be feeding us those foods?
That's
But no, you can't swim in that water.
Right, right. Absolutely. Good point, kid. But yeah, that's right. It's what are they putting on our food that can't go in the water, and then we can't swim? That's a perfect point. So think about that. It's just stuff we should all be questioning. I don't want anybody to go through life, or think about Roundup, and look at all the lawsuits with Roundup right now. And people used Roundup to kill weeds, and from there, like we don't use any chemicals in our yard at all. But we make a combination of is it vinegar, white vinegar, Dawn dish soap, water, and a little bit of salt, and that's our weed killer. And I don't kill any weeds really out in the yard. I kill the weeds in my gravel driveway. But that's what we use that for. I won't use, anything that's going to harm the environment. Or I sound like like a hippie, but
we also don't use Dawn anymore for our dishes.
Yeah. If you've ever read the back of Dawn dishwater or dish soap, you won't understand 99% of the things that are in there or be able to pronounce them. Mm-hmm. And I've read that soap can actually cause nervous disorders and some problems in people.
Sharon in Belgium, I believe, she said it is illegal to use Roundup here. And it probably has been the case there for a long time, definitely longer than any regulations here in the United States, I would assume.
Absolutely. It's, you can still go to the store today and buy Roundup here, and with all the lawsuits, and I don't really know if they've changed the formula yet, but with all the lawsuits, you would think that they would be changing something. Yes, Roundup kills weeds, great, kills them now. And the combination that I told you about with the vinegar and salt and Dawn, and that is a slow killer. And a lot of times it doesn't kill the root, but it's safer. It's safer for the environment. It's safer for the bugs, the bees, all of that. So maybe look for different natural things that you could use to take care of that situation. Anyway, we kind of got off track a little bit, but I like this.
It ties in together.
It all ties in together, of course. Two of the things I wanted to tell you about is I mentioned geoengineerwatch.org. It's run by a gentleman named Dane Wigington. He's done numerous interviews. Two of them were the good ones on Redacted. I don't know if anybody's heard of Redacted with Natalie and what's his name? Clayton Morris. Clayton used to work for Fox years ago and got sick and tired of the fake news and all of that. She was a writer, I believe, a journalist, and they decided they were going to start their own show, and it's very, very popular, and it's very independent. They have lots of independent people on there. But they did an interview with Dane Wigington about weather manipulation. It was fantastic. And Sean Ryan, I know Jeff Yarrington watches Sean Ryan interviews. He did one recently with Augustus Dorico. I think that's how you say it. And he's the gentleman that I think he's 26 years old, and he owns the Rainmaker company, and that was the company that was seeding 2 days prior to the Texas floods. So, get with it. Not get with it, but I suggest you watch those. And two documentaries that are good, which may I see the mouse for a second, please? Mm-hmm. Two documentaries that are good, and I'm going to bring the pictures of the documentaries up. Is this one called Frankenskies? Oops. I'll leave it up there a little longer. Where'd it go? There it is. So it's about geoengineering. You can see the chemtrails, and I don't know how to get us off screen there. Hold on there. So yeah. So I highly suggest you check those out. It'll tell you what chemicals they're using, the effects on the environment they're having in places. Um, they do ground samples and find the chemicals that are in the ground from where these flights have taken place. You know, anything you inject into the sky, I know they say like the silver iodide, they're injecting it into the clouds just to get them to make bigger raindrops, is what they say they're doing. Uh, if what happened in Operation Popeye, where they can make the rain last 35 to 45 days longer, then what's saying they couldn't make the rain more powerful, make the drops bigger, heavier, larger amounts, especially if you're seeding into an environment that already has a lot of moisture in it. Again, we talked about Helene, and look how powerful Helene is, and it already come into shore. How did it get so much stronger? I know a meteorologist will tell you one thing, and that's their job. But how many meteorologists are conspiracy theorists as well? Do they research that kind of stuff? I mean, I hope they do, because it.
Hold on a minute. Do you need it repeated on the documentaries and where to find them? Is that where we were at?
I must have muted us.
Okay. Yes. So the Frankenskies documentary, that I'm actually looking up now. It may be available on YouTube, but the Deming documentary is available on geoengineeringwatch.com.
So yeah, definitely check those out. Again, I still have to check out Frankenskies, but I've heard a lot of good things about it. Well, good things / bad things. So that's something check out if you're interested in what people are doing into our skies. One of the things I did read was NOAA, which is let me look this up, National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration. I think I got that right. They claim that they don't do any cloud seeding. And I'm okay. If they claim that, they claim that. They're a government organization. So do I believe them? But what I did find out is they hire people to. You are supposed to check with them before you seed clouds. There are supposedly regulations that you have to follow. And I had seen a piece of paper from where Rainmaker filled out for the Texas government, the Texas area where they were going to be seeding, telling what they were doing. So whether everybody does that, because, the U.S. government does it too. And there are lots of, you'll see that in some of these documentaries, former pilots that were in the military, and they'll tell you about the planes they use and how they injected the chemicals into the skies. But yet the government claims it doesn't happen. So you believe what you want to believe. I tend to believe that it happens. We've learned that not everything the government tells us isn't happening. UFOs are real now. COVID-19 or C-19 is causing problems in people, or the shots, excuse me. So, so there's a lot of things that we need to look at and talk about with all this. One of the things also, we talked about this, our first show, was the Dubai flooding. Dubai gets seeded a lot because they have no rain out there whatsoever. When they had their record-breaking rain, they had more rain in 24 hours than they had ever had in an entire year. And when I went on a couple of Dubai websites, one of them clearly stated that they overseeded the clouds. Now that's what they're telling us now is we can't, that's impossible. We're not doing that. We're doing clouds, we just give it a little push and it goes. But what if, that's not true and we end up just like with Dubai? And that could be what happened here in Texas and and some of these other places. I also looked up if they could show me a map of all the flight patterns of the cloud seeding companies and where they're flying and dropping their chemicals or seeding their clouds. And it says those don't exist. They said they don't keep track of stuff like that. And I would think you could get something like that from the FAA, but I literally couldn't find it anywhere. I follow a couple people that on YouTube that are former or current former military, Air Force, and they will show you on their I forget the software they use, where these planes are flying and how they fly, and they just go over an area literally like this, and they keep, and they're weather companies, Cloud Seeding LLC, and they're making the weather. You'll see they do these flights, and then you watch the storm system just explode, and they get, what was the one I just saw? North Carolina, I think it was South Carolina, and one weekend of thunderstorms had over 67,000 lightning strikes. And to me, that seems pretty crazy, 67,000 lightning strikes. So were they doing anything there? We won't know because we don't know if there was any cloud seeding going on. So another possible is the use of HAARP. And I would tell you what that means, but it's not right for a high altitude. See if I can find that real quick because I want you to know that. Anyway, check it out. It's up in Alaska. It used to belong to the U.S. military, and it has to do with radio waves and sending radio waves into the atmosphere.
It's High Frequency Active Auroral Research Program.
See, I was nowhere close. Of course, I didn't even get it. So that's what HAARP is, and they're saying that they're using that along with the cloud seeding, along with the 5G towers. You could go into all of these conspiracy theories, but again, I highly suggest people check it out. That's the only way to find out. There it is. Studies the properties and behaviors of the ionosphere. So anyway, there's other history. If anybody in the chat has experienced any of this weather, I'd really like to know what they experienced as far as how much rainfall they got. I know we had, I think in a week span, around 4 inches, which isn't really a lot, but it came within, not a weekend, and it was 4 inches. And it was a lot for us here, but we don't really see, we watch a little river go down our yard to our neighbors. But when you drive down the mountain or down the plateau, you see all the washout from it coming down the plateau through all the ditches and rolling up onto the road, and knocks all the tree limbs down. When you live in the mountains, it just tears the sides apart, or the dirt mountains, or the mountains on this. Let's try this again. The dirt on the side of the mountains and all the trees fall down into the road, and that becomes a big mess up here. That's one of the things I kind of laughed about when we first moved here, was that, boy, school seems to be closed an awful lot here for the simplest of things. When I went to school, we'd close for anything, but here, high wind warnings, schools are closed. It's because everything's on a mountain. So high wind blows trees down into the road, and they can't get to some of these places out there. Mm-hmm. So
before we go further, I'm going to show you. So the Frankenskies documentary is available on YouTube. Currently, there's a channel, Unveiling Veritas, that has it. So this is what there's a reflection, but it's Frankenskies. And then also the dimming is available on YouTube as well currently, and that is on a Dane Wigington channel, the dimming. But Chad said it's so hard to read. Sorry. There we go. The dimming. And then it is geoengineeringwatch.org, O-R-G, that the dimming is also available on.
So we just kind of wanted to hit on that. If anybody wants to chat with us about what they've seen, please feel free. We'll we'll put the link in the chat. What's this? We got over 10 inches in less than 2 days, washed out the pond dam and a lot of roads. I bet, Gary. I know I just saw something about, I believe it was Eastern Tennessee got hit hard again and flooded. Part of the road 40 washed out again. We saw that last time we were over in that area. So that area is getting hit hard again as well. And that's just crazy. 10 inches of rain in less than 2 days. I said earlier, a lot of people will call it climate change and talk about how this year is the hottest year they can remember. But if you go back through time, there's been, since recorded time, there's been a lot more hotter years than. It's just talking points. Look it up. It's all there to prove it or debunk it, whichever way you want to look at it. But either way, we should all be looking into it. I went to an all-boys Catholic school run by the Christian Brothers, who hated it when they couldn't have school. The rule was if they could walk to school and they lived on campus, school was open.
Wow. That's extreme, William.
I felt like that's how our school superintendent was. He drove I can't remember what year it was like a 79 four-wheel drive Blazer. And he lived one town away from the school. And if he could make it into school with his four-wheel drive Blazer, then school was on. So, here's us kids in the big, long yellow school buses, 5, 6, 7 inches of snow on the ground. And here we are going to school. And everybody else that drove themselves to school would have to try to ride the bus so they could get to school. Mm-hmm. But it is what it is. There were times where I walked to school backwards barefoot.
Yeah, sure.
In my tennis or my shorts because we couldn't afford clothes.
Gary said Eastern Oklahoma got it 3 days ago. Oklahoma City got it again yesterday.
Oh, man. And I saw pictures of that. I was showing them to her. Also, Texas, the area that got hit earlier is getting hit again today. You have flood warnings out, flash flood warnings again. And like I said, if this area is so prone to flash flooding, why aren't they trying to set something up where it can, move the water around or maybe make like, I know William is in here now, like what they did in New Orleans and build those levees for these places. If it's coming, like I believe they knew the one in Texas was going to hit, and they were putting out warnings 2 days prior. And then you've got it political where one group's saying they, so-and-so fired all the people and weren't enough people. And then you find out that that's not true, that there were more people put on there for that reason. So it's political sides playing political sides. These are our lives we have to worry about. So keep the politicians out and let's take care of ourselves. That's why I say research this stuff. Find out what's going on around us. It's not just the weather.
Also, when Jerry said they got 4.4 inches in less than 2 hours last Wednesday, he later said he was getting worried Jeffrey was going to float away.
Jeffrey's got a zip line set up over top of the water. He's
true.
Fine. He's fine. But anyways, you can see these are all pages I went through and brought up, researched. There's so much stuff on here. There's no way I could go through all this and tell you guys. And I kind of feel that I shouldn't. I think our job is to just inform you. And then if you're interested in informing yourself, you're going to research it. That's kind of how conspiracy theories work. You can be the person that just says, yeah, the problem is that building levees is very expensive. No government could justify building them for over a 100-year event or 1,000-year. I get it. I get it, William. That makes sense. But they have to think of somebody has to put their heads together and think of what can we do? Something has to be done, or we're going to lose people all the time, which seems to be recently we're losing a lot more as far as flooding than we have in the past. I mean, in modern days, I should say. In the old days, we'd lose a lot because river valleys would wash out before we had dams. And now I hear there's a lot of dams that are starting to fail, which isn't a good thing either. Yes. I still haven't figured out the warning systems either and why, if you know that a tropical storm system is headed your way, is there, what kind of, I know it might not go directly where you're at. And I know that New Orleans has had to deal with that, with hurricane warnings saying it's going to hit New Orleans. And then at the last minute, maybe it just misses New Orleans or whatever town. And I know that happens. But it's kind of like a tornado, to be honest with you. If you get a tornado warning, which isn't a very long warning, it's not, you don't get a whole lot of time to realize it's coming. But let's say nowadays it went from being, basically, oh shit, there it is, to now you've got 5 to 10 minutes to, they'll throw a tornado warning up, 20 minutes before, there's a tornado warning for such and such county. I'll say where we live, we'll say Middle Tennessee. And it gives you 20 minutes to prepare. Now, we're prepared no matter what. We've got everything. If we hear a tornado warning, we know what to grab, where we're headed. It's that fast. If you're out and about, you have to plan for that too. But the warnings are getting better and better. I don't know how these flood warnings are, though. I've seen flash floods. I've seen a flash flood once in my life, and it was nothing big. We were at softball field, and we were all sitting in our cars, and it rained, and all of a sudden, about 12 inches of water. It looked like a river just formed in the park at the edge of the parking lot and started flowing. You couldn't get out of your car because there was so much water. Monitor cracks at our local dam. Yeah. And I hear that a lot.
What do you hear?
Dams.
What's the comment?
Oh, they constantly, Jeff Yarrington says they constantly monitor cracks at our local dam. They do that at there's a lot of dams out there that have a lot of issues with cracks, and even the big ones out west. The big boys have cracks in them that they have to constantly work on. I know that I can't remember if it was at Lake Mead, whatever dam's on Lake Mead, they thought that might fall apart one day or have a big crack in it. Agreed. We keep a box. Oh, definitely. William said, agreed. We keep a box of important papers that we take with when we evacuate for a hurricane. That's a spectacular idea. That's something that everybody should do. My wife is great with that. She is such a good planner. She's got papers in our car for anything. If we were out and about and something would happen, where to go to the hospital at, what's the closest place to where you're at. She's got the same thing upstairs. These are papers we need to grab if something's going to happen, because, you lose it all. It's your word versus somebody else's on what you owned and what you had. So trying to think what else here. Keep the box important. Okay. So basically, we just wanted to kind of get on here and talk a little bit about the weather and what's happening. And if any of you all notice any of this too yourself, if anybody else pays attention to what's going on, and if you're concerned, because it could be weather, it could be many, many other things. We talk about the heat. There's been England was doing it. They were going to send, I forget what type of particles, up into the atmosphere to deflect the sun's rays back up into the atmosphere so that the ground wouldn't get as hot, so that you wouldn't have, in England, they freak out over 90-degree temperatures. Where we're at, it's been like 90 degrees the past 3 weeks. No big deal to us, but they're not used to that, I guess. So they're trying to deflect, the rays of the sun. And in fact, they were doing that in Texas as well. I believe I read about it. They were doing it over in Austin, Texas. And I can't remember what they were calling it, but they were exactly putting things to shine the particles of sun rays back up into the sky. So, but yeah. Does anybody have any questions that haven't been asked yet? I know the shows can be a little boring, but we wanted to talk about this again because of all the weather issues. It's been miserable.
I bet. It was hot in May when we were in New Orleans.
Yeah, well, I don't think we saw any breezes while we were there.
It was surprisingly warm.
Stank hot, yeah.
And just humid, which wasn't surprising, but I did not expect it to be that hot in May.
Right. Yeah, it's just I'm a hot weather person. I love hot weather. She was saying something to me about that today. I never like to have the air conditioner on in the car. I like to have the windows down, but she has this pretty hair that blows all over her face and everything, and I don't.
He doesn't get it.
Yeah, I don't get it. So the heat doesn't bother me, but when it comes wintertime, I can't do it. And I grew up playing hockey. I should love cold, but hate it. Absolutely hate it. Now, what I don't like is the humidity. So if somebody can mess with the humidity and get rid of that, I'm okay with that. But hey, let me ask while you are all in here, how about mosquitoes? How have mosquitoes been in your area? Again, we're in Middle Tennessee, and I swear to God, these things are like small pterodactyls. I mean, I got bit the other day, and I swear it swelled up about that big. It was horrible. Well, Jeff, come on. Jeff says you can keep that hot weather, Chad. Okay, I'll take the hot weather. You can have the cold weather. I don't want it. With all the rain, they're terrible. That's just it. The mosquitoes. And there's some good conspiracy theories about mosquitoes as well that have been released in Florida, and they're to battle something. You know, mosquito. William says mosquitoes not too bad this year at the beach. I don't know why. Well, it's because they all came up here. They decided that the beach wasn't the place. They wanted to be in the mountains. And literally, we'll sit outside around the fire. And when we wake up the next morning, I can't tell who she is because her face is so swollen from mosquito bites.
Stop. No, my legs are terrible the last couple of months. They just are eating me up.
Yeah, definitely. And with my bald head, and I don't know if anybody realizes how many capillaries are in your head. If you cut your head, it looks like you took an axe to the head. If you just have a little cut up here, and the amount of mosquito bites I get on top of my head, it looks kind of funny. I start looking at all these bumps and yeah. Anyway, just took the trash out and my legs are tore up. Yeah. That's another problem we have too, Bobby. Here is we have chiggers.
Oh yeah.
Or chiggas, whichever you want to call them. But we have chiggers here, and they you don't go out in the yard barefoot because if you do, then they just destroy your feet.
Yeah.
And you're itching all night. You wake up at 3:00 in the morning, scratching your feet and bleeding. Oh, stop it, Catherine. Quit being so nice. Hey, one of the things while I have y'all on here, we're into our 11th show, and we kind of want some feedback from you guys. If there's anything that you want to hear about or want us to talk about, or if you want to be a guest on our show to talk about with whatever, please hit us up. We have an email. You want to hook that up there? That you can. I know William's contacted us before, and William, we do want to have you back for a part 2, and to pretty much talk about whatever medical stuff you'd like to. But we have some questions still for you that you might help us with. And if anybody wants to talk about, whatever, I know I'm trying to get Roger on here, Roger Williams, and his buddy Don Odom, because Roger is a closet conspiracy theory guy, and I'd love for them to get on here. And I want to do a round table where we just have like 5 or 6 people on here, and we just talk about, things that are going on and talk about conspiracies. It's kind of fun. A conspiracy is what a conspiracy is. It doesn't, some of them aren't true, but they're fun to talk about. And it's just, like this, it's just interesting. Where do these come up? What's real? What's not? I will tell you this right now. In going through X and some of these other social media and visiting all these meteorologist pages, I am very disappointed in the way that they are talking to their the people that rely on them. I rely on a certain one for our area because he's so good, and it's not for our area. He does the whole United States. but I don't like the way he talks to people when they are people that ask questions. And I still respect the guy. I just don't like the things that he says about people that are, talk about weather modification. He said a few things that's kind of upset me, and I found a lot of that. I've also found some meteorologists that have been on our side that are asking questions. Why is this happening? And they are meteorologists. They went to meteorology school, so it's nice that they're asking questions.
Post it.
Oh yeah, definitely. Is it going to pop up? There it is. So Erica just put our email that'll come to my phone if anybody's interested in talking to something about something. Again, we're trying to keep kind of off the wall subjects, conspiracy wise. I don't really want to get into politics too much. I think most of you on here, I know, and you know my politics. I just don't want to get into shows about that because then I start getting trolls. And once trolls start hitting our show, we've seen other people get trolls in their show. I just don't need that. I want to have good conversations with, if I could find somebody that was opposite politically of me and wanted to have a nice, fair conversation, that would be great. But right now, let's just talk it, keep it all these things. I want to have guests. I want to do have her be on some shows, talking about, or her doing some shows about cooking, about natural herbs growing in the yard, or flowers that you can eat, that kind of stuff. Holistic stuff, I guess, is that would be. Mm-hmm. And I know we've got some people on here I want to have as guests, but that's going to be her choice. Sorry if I'm ignorant, but do they cloud seed? And yes.
Yes, Catherine.
Yes, Catherine. One of the things I mentioned earlier was the country of Dubai. It's over in the UAE area, United Arab Emirates, and they are very wealthy. If you've ever researched Dubai, it's like where the rich people, all the Saudi richies live. They are all wealthy over there. Lamborghinis, Ferraris, Audis, BMWs, all the big cars, they're all rich. Anyway, they don't get rain over there, so they now have cloud seeding organizations that that create the rain for them. And I believe it was a year or 2 years ago, they overseeded the clouds. They admitted to overseeding the clouds and completely flooded Dubai out. They anything that was like 6 feet and under on Dubai was underwater. So it was.
Also, weren't they cloud seeding in Vietnam?
Yeah, Operation Popeye, which.
So during the war, I mean, it goes back as far back as then, but Chad has documentation showing. Was that even cloud? Your patents.
Yeah.
The list of patents went back to the 1800s.
1800s with the list of patents, and we can I'll just touch on a few to get you. No more.
So that's a good question, Catherine. It has been going on for a very long time.
So the first weather patent was July 16th, 1891, and was a patent to create a method of producing rainfall. And I would imagine because back then, a lot of people lived out west. They lived out west, but there are so many different. Here, you can read some of those.
Well, I was curious to because she was asking about other countries, so I wanted to see the first one about.
Well, these are all USA here.
Okay.
But yes, cloud seeding is all over the world.
And then William had a comment. Let's see. There we go.
Not to blow my own horn too much, but my recent podcast is about. Yes, if you guys haven't checked out William's podcast, please do.
So good.
It is. The information that he gives in the healthcare industry, and then music, if you like music, mm-hmm. He gives some history. He gives some history about New Orleans, and every once in a while, I'll play a little tune of his own or somebody else's tune. I highly suggest checking out. Make his channel bigger, mm-hmm. Definitely, because you're not going to get that kind of information off of other podcast for sure.
Mm-hmm. That's
And
very good.
William, thank you for sharing that. And Gary, I know you're probably a busy man, but if you could put William's channel up there on how to find William, would be great. If you're still here.
You can find it on YouTube, though. The Blues Doctor Recommends is William's page, and it's so good. And I believe it is weekly or almost weekly, but it's so informative, and it's really a fun show. And let's see.
Yes, I like this question here from William. It's not really a question, but by the way, was anyone surprised when Dr. O'Connor took the fifth this week before the Senate committee? Nope. Knew that was going to happen.
That is I'd like for you to cover that in a show, William.
I've always said that if you, and it's, we have the Fifth Amendment where we can plead the fifth and don't have to answer any questions. But to me, that's always been, if you're pleading the fifth, there's only two reasons. One is because you're guilty, and the other is because it can get you in trouble in other areas. You might not have done something wrong here, but you might spit out something that you did wrong elsewhere in another. So you just say, I plead the fifth. But that's kind of a cut. That pretty much says, yeah, there was something going on in my eyes, William. Dubai is going to come back to haunt them. I agree 100%, Art. Art said, I think that seeding in Dubai is going to come back to haunt them. I think the amount of chemicals, one of the things I found too, is if an area gets seeded over and over and over, the greenery, vegetation starts to suffer. The insect population starts to suffer. So yeah, I agree. It's going to eventually hurt them one way or the other. Pyra says, I have not seen a bee yet this year in New England or Northeast Oklahoma. Okay. Well, let's go with Wyatt's first. You can Google whether oh, absolutely. Wyatt, I've got a whole right here. These are all weather patents. All of these. And I can't tell you how many there are, but it's from 1891 all up 2023.
I think he's offering that as helpful information to the people watching.
Yeah. Pyro had one there too. I wanted to see right there. Pyro says, I have not seen a bee yet this year in Northeast Oklahoma. Not sure how the garden was pollinated. We said something about not just bees earlier, but bees, and we didn't mention, but butterflies. We don't see a whole lot of butterflies around here anymore either. And I remember as a kid, we always saw monarch butterflies. And I have not seen a monarch, the old gold and black ones, or I haven't seen a monarch butterfly in years. So I don't know what's going on there. Weekly, we've got a funny story about the mafia in New Orleans for this year. All right.
That will be cool. I will definitely be interested in a story about the mafia in New Orleans. So we're looking forward to that, William. That's the next episode of the Blues Doctor Recommends on YouTube.
Which, if I'm correct, comes out Tuesdays at midnight. Is that right, William? Let's see if he'll answer.
Yeah, that's it.
Yes. See, we watch, William. I know when you're on, brother. Monarchs still fly high over here during migration. Okay, Gary. Gary says monarchs still fly over here during migration. That's good. I like that.
Cool.
So, yeah. I could literally go through all this paperwork I have and talk about all the stuff that I've read. But, and we were discussing this earlier, I just want to get you interested in these things. We just want to get you, sorry. The object is for you to learn. If I'm teaching you and you're on here, you're reading chat and everything else. But if you just hear what we're talking about and you're interested in it, then research it. I highly suggest you check out what weather stuff is going on, weather modification. I've learned so much in just the past 2 months of the chemicals they're putting in. You know, chemtrails. If you research chemtrails, there's interviews with pilots. The type of chemicals they're putting in: barium, aluminum, radioactive thorium and cesium, copper, titanium, silicone, cobalt. All these are poisonous to the human body. All these are poisonous to animals. So why are they chemtrailing? You know, if you go into fluoride, we'll use fluoride as an example. Why do you think they are interfering with the weather? In my opinion, it's to get the green agenda going. To say that, you know, the storms are getting heavier and you know, more powerful because of the climate change. And I think that's it's to get the industry fired up. You know, when they had the Green New Deal, which I think our president has since axed, I think that was a way for them to get the Green New Deal going and get all these new companies started up to eliminate all of the bad weather we're getting. But I think they're still doing it. I think they're still trying to get it through. And it's, you know, that's the way a conspiracy theory looks at it, is that's what they're trying to do with all this bad weather they're creating. Let's see what Pyro says. 1 year, Mexico had a deep freeze and killed all the monarchs that had migrated there.
Wow.
I mean, what do you, okay, while we have everybody here, and I love opinions, what's your opinion on, I could say climate change, but I think the climate changes all the time. On global warming, we'll say that. What does everybody think of global warming? Or have you not looked into it enough? And I'll tell you right now, if you watch the mainstream media, they're going to tell you their version of what global warming is and how water's getting warmer and our systems changing weather-wise. And you talk to people or you look in history books and how weather was, you know, 100 years ago, or let's not say 100 years. Yeah, 100 years ago, because it's not that long ago now. You know, when they were keeping track of weather, we had worse years. We had better years. It's like they're trying to, was pushing weather mad. No, let's get back on here. Clearly, the Obama administration was pushing weather mad or mod because they believed in man-made global warming. Agreed, 100%. It's funny around here is, you know, we live in a farming community, and I've had people come up and say that I've had people tell me that a lot of the farmers in this town, old farmers, say that, you know, this is the weirdest weather they've ever seen these past few years. They've seen rainfall totals more, but just the types of weather they're seeing here are really something different than what they've known. And these guys are growing crops. They have lots of cattle farms out here.
They've been farming. They've been raised to farm. They've farmed for generations. So they know what to expect typically with the weather. So they would be the ones to notice any irregularities.
Bobby Yount says, is it a control thing? I believe so. I believe so because, again, it's pushing a green agenda. It's pushing us to move to solar and all these other things that create new companies that the government can have control over, create new organizations within the government, and in the long run, control you and what you do, like they're trying to do now, we're trying to do with the green agenda.
So this makes me think of Maui.
The
wildfires. And how was it that houses weren't affected if the houses had a blue roof?
And it's funny that she mentions that. It's something I wanted to talk about too, or the fires. Not just in Lahaina, or Maui, but Saskatchewan, Alberta, Colorado, LA, North Carolina. I mean, there were fires burning. Tennessee had fires burning out of control. And we know that lightning does it. But there were maps that you could watch from space that you could watch in Canada like explosions, big bright lights happen over Alberta and Saskatchewan that started all of these fires. And that really got me going with the DEW, direct energy weapons. Again, conspiracy theory, but that was part of the reason they claimed that the houses in Maui that had blue roofs didn't catch fire. I've watched lots of shows on it. It's amazing to me. They bring a good point across. I've seen lots of investigations into the Maui fires. There's a lot of situations with the gentleman that was the police chief in Maui, was also previously the police chief in Las Vegas when the Las Vegas shootings took place. There's a lot of people tied into a lot of that. So I tell my son, if you're going to jump down the rabbit hole, be careful, because you're going to find things that connect to other things. So be careful when you do, or you're going to, like I tell you all the time, you'll be the guy that sits there chain smoking with thumbtacks and yarn, connecting everything together. Jeff Yarrington, there was a fire outside Gettysburg that burned over 3,000 acres. And a lot of times it's dry. It's just dry stuff. Like with California, it's poor management. It's poor forest management. If you're not going in and cleaning out the dead wood, you're creating an area, it's dry. It's California. You're creating an area that once it catches fires, you're going to have a hard time putting it out. Around where we live, these forests, they still have a lot of trees down, but the ground floor of the forest is fairly, the types of trees we have around here, it's fairly clean, or they'll keep it cleaner. The park systems will. There was a clip of a former president slipping up about the blue roofs. Yeah, I know. I've seen quite a few things about that kind of stuff, Wyatt. And that's why I researched the blue roofs. And now it's as a joke, as we drive down the mountain, we're like, well, that person's not going to catch on fire. That person's not going to catch on fire. So the Jersey fire this year was crazy. Yeah, I don't remember oh, no, I do remember a little bit about the Jersey fire. So, yeah, when something happens in your area, question, why did it happen? If it's something off scale, something that you're like, oh, that's crazy that happened. That burned 3,000 acres or whatever. That's big. And why is this happening? It could be a lightning strike. We found out with the California fires that there were people setting them. And, the same thing was said about a lot of the fires up in Canada as well. And why? Because it pushes the new agenda that they want. So it is what it is. Just most parks around here just leave trees.
Oh, wow.
A lot do here, but like I said earlier, we live on mountain. So when the trees fall, yeah, Jeff says most parks around here just leave fallen trees where they lay. And they do a lot around here, but the problem is the mountains here are really steep and everything just falls down to the bottom over time. Mm-hmm. So they have the ability, when they go in and clean out a bunch of fallen trees, they'll go up into the woods and clean more fallen trees. It's basically, they'll clear out the areas around housing. That way, if there is a fire, because Gatlinburg's had some big fires, really big fires. What do we got here? By the way, we didn't live in Los Angeles by choice. I was doing
He was talking about fires were inevitable during that period of time, 88 through 92 or 89 through 92. Guess that was the Rodney King time. 89 through 92.
Thanks for just leaving. Yeah, part of the National Forest Service is supposed to be, if you've ever been hiking, we've hiked through areas that you had to climb over tree branches or tree limbs, fallen trees, stuff like that. But we've also hiked in areas where they've taken very good care of the paths, cleared trees out, thinned the forest out. We also have a lot of forest where there's pine needles on the ground. which is a little easier to control. If you'll notice, well, you can't notice, but behind us we have a few pine trees where there's, there's no needles until halfway up the tree.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps fire situations, but we won't have any fires behind us. That was a knock. So yeah. So what do you guys think of the flooding? Has anybody had to go through a flood before? Has anybody ever been flooded before? Riley, Ron. I believe that, Riley. I've been to Maine a few times, and that's some of the biggest wooded areas I think I've ever seen besides where I was in Canada. I mean, we have a lot of woods here, but we still have like Nashville and stuff like that aren't wooded. But been to Bangor, some other places in Maine.
Michael Haywood.
What do you say? Been on the Red River when it was flooded.
Oh, wow.
Tell you what, I can remember as a kid, my mom tried to drive through a flood, and it washed us off the road. But luckily we got stuck before you would go into the river itself. We were able to get a tow truck. Tow truck pulled us out. Water, not something to mess with. I've got a big old lifted truck, and I still wouldn't drive through it because that water just makes you so much lighter and picks you up and moves you. Pyro says, our last big ice storm several years ago made it difficult to hunt the woods for a couple of years with all the fallen trees. You got to work out and feel like you had walked an extra few miles. I believe it. Definitely.
Wow.
Yeah, the ice storms, that's another one. There's nothing you can do during an ice storm. It takes down anything it wants to take down. Snowstorms. Okay, Gary, come on. Gary said we floated a 68 GTO through a water crossing in flood.
What?
You had to be a lot younger back then, right? Was it in 68? When you was a wee lad? Because that sounds like something I would have done when I was 16.
Mm-hmm.
Well, we've been an hour and 15.
Yeah.
Well, we're just kind of rambling now, people. But
Yeah.
I'll say the same thing I say every show. If something interests you, if you want to know why something's happening, research it, ask questions. Because we can sit around with our heads in the sand and not know anything, or we can look up, pay attention, and ask questions and learn a lot. And I suggest we do that as our environment starts to act all crazy around us. Ask why. And yeah, that's it. Again,
Yeah.
go ahead.
I just want to thank our moderators and thank you everybody who has been here and for participating in the chat. We always like to hear from you guys. So one more time, I'll say the Frankenskies documentary is available on YouTube currently, as well as the Dimming, Dimming documentary is available on YouTube currently, and also available on the website geoengineeringwatch.org.
One Mound. I don't know who you are, but I want to know why our community doesn't keep emergency seeds on hand for a second start.
I know they do that in Norway?
Yeah,
Isn't that where that big vault is?
Yeah, there's a couple places that do it. Let me just say this. I know you say I want to know why our community doesn't keep emergency seeds. You should keep emergency seeds. Never rely on somebody else taking care of you and your family. We don't have a big place. We keep a lot of seeds for if something would ever happen to start over again. And I suggest everybody else, whether you have a garden or not, it's still good to keep those seeds for what if something happens. It would be great if you had a community that kept seeds, for sure. I know that there are seed vaults, like she mentioned Norway. I believe there's one in the United States as well, because they always talk about the end of times and these people will have the seeds for us to start over again. Well, if it's the end of time, who's going to survive? Kind of sounds like the end of time is the end of time. But that's a great question. And think about yourself. I should do it for my family, whether you have a farm or not. We lived in a condo and she was keeping seeds and storing seeds. So great question. Let me get back down to the bottom here if I missed anything. Awesome. There,
Good.
that's the way to be.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, folks, I could stay on here forever. Well, not really ever. And let you guys chat around.
But yeah, that's a really pretty plant also. One mound.
Oh,
amaranth.
And that's good for you too, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, here's Leanne.
Well, hi, Leanne.
OLC, Old Line Cryptids, will be back on this Tuesday.
Who will our guest be, Jerry? Jerry. We're just waiting to see what Jerry's going to say, who our guest is going to be on Tuesday. I forget.
Jeff.
Jeff. Is it Daniel Benoit or Ben? Is it Benoit? I think.
Yeah. There you go, Jeff.
Okay. And I have to ask though, is it Danielle Benoit or excuse me, Daniel Benoit? Is that how you pronounce the last name? I guess we'll find out Tuesday.
Oh, hold on. William Scott.
Right there.
What? William says my other podcast, Talking Memphis Wrestling, conflicts with OLC on Tuesdays.
William, you're fired.
There he goes. William said Benoit.
Okay.
And OLC says Benoit.
I pronounce all those words with the French because I played hockey with so many French guys. Like Daniel to me would have been Danielle, which they said was a French Canadian girl's name, but I knew two guys that were named Danielle. So anyway, cool. Daniel Benoit. And that will be, Jerry, is it going to be at 8 o'clock or 8:15 Eastern Tuesday? We'll read this in the meantime. Pyro says they are trying to flood-proof 5 dams on the Grand River by drilling anchors. They are moving minutely. If one breaks, they all go and the central U.S. be majorly strapped for power. Oh, boy. And I remember, what was it, a couple years ago, the Oroville Dam in California was on the verge of...
Oh, I forgot about that.
All these dams, they're great, and they build these beautiful dams, but if they're not upkept and are kept up for so long, yeah. I didn't leave screen here. Bye, Catherine. Catherine saying bye. You guys seem like a lot of fun. Thank you, One Mound. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
We're just trying to keep it relaxed, and I talk too much sometimes. She'll shut me up, but that's good. And we try to keep things interesting. So thank you very much for subscribing. Pretty much. Hold on. William, Catherine wants to know if it's midget wrestling.
Jeff was the midget wrestler, Jerry. Was his name Bacon in the Wind?
Oh, what a great wrestling name. The Baconator.
Oh, yeah, there you go. Yeah, thank you to our mods. We know Gary's always working OT for everybody.
And you got a break this morning with no Woodwalkers.
Here goes Mary. That's cute.
And again, everybody, please say a prayer for Greg and his family and Al's family. Greg lost his brother from another mother, and it's really sad to hear things like that. Zipliner Baconator. And please have the people in Texas, all the kids and everybody that's lost their lives in the flooding, Texas, Oklahoma, everywhere.
Yes.
Jerry the King Lawler. Anyway, Erica's giving me the cut it off. Not the beard. Better not. Anyways, thanks everybody for being here. We'll catch you all next Sunday. We promise. We might be able to do our part 2 of the medical show. That's up to William if he can be available. If not, we'll be back with something. And again, if anybody has any ideas or if they want to be on, please hit us up on the. Let me find that. Eric, you want to type that back in again?
Yeah.
On our email address, if you're interested in having a show with us or being as a guest,
just reach out to us.
Reach out to us. We're not obviously super serious, but we like to have a good conversation with people. So anyway, we love you all. Thanks for being here.
Yeah, love you guys.
And have a great night and take care of one another. And we shall see. I'll see you Tuesday night. Whether you like it or not, I'll see you with my boys on Jerry and Jeffrey show. And I highly suggest being there. It's a great show.
Mary says no monkey winch Wednesday, taking a summer break. So
Atta
good
girl.
for you.
Good for you, Mary.
Take care of yourself. And okay, we're good. We'll see y'all on the next one.
That's right. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a great night.